Hello and welcome to Where Are They Now, the TV show that sponsors great Chelmsford High School alumni. I'm your host, Heather Linstan from the class of 1985, and today I'm joined by Kailey Sumner from the class of 2014. Kailey, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
So it's been a little bit since you've been away. Are you coming back for a reunion or?
Yeah, I hope so. I just reached out to offer to help plan the reunion. So our 10 year is coming up soon. So
Oh,
excited to see everybody.
that's awesome. So did you grow up in Chelmsford or was Chelmsford High something new to you?
I grew up in Chelmsford for a bit. My mom's whole family's from Chelmsford, but I moved away for a bit and then came back for high school. So a little bit of both.
So when you entered Chelmsford, were you intimidated or did you already have a kind of group of friends from Chelmsford and made it easy to go into the high school?
Hmm. I've never been one to be very intimidated by things, but I had went to McCarthy for eighth grade, so I knew some folks. So that helped a bit, but I'm a bit of a social butterfly, so it all kind of works for me.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. So what were kind of the trends when you're going into your freshman year? Was that to get into sports and kind of join the school that way? Is that was kind of your motivation, or were there other activities that you were kind of interested in?
Yeah, mostly sports. I always grew up playing sports, so getting involved in like the sports and the community and social aspect of that was easy. But I also like am a big fan of kind of just doing everything and getting involved in just a little piece of anything that kind of interests me. So started with sports and then kind of wandered into to other aspects of after school activities and whatnot.
So when you're there, was there a teacher though early on in your high school career that you felt like, okay, well, I'm getting motivated to either play soccer or stay into track or do other things, or or where was that, or was it just a combination of a lot of great teachers?
I think it was just a combination of a lot of great teachers. I mean, I was a huge soccer player growing up, and so my soccer coach, Coach Pally, all 4 years was fantastic and just like a very, just like stabilizing coach, I guess I'd say, like not a very extreme person, which I think kind of helped balance what my goals were out. And then I mean, just like the whole crew of Chelmsford High teachers were just fantastic in general. So it always kind of helped promote everything that I was interested in. I was never really like roadblocked or anything of that sort, which was awesome.
And what while you were doing sports and those kind of things, so academically, in the classroom, getting up, being motivated to when you, I'm not sure, maybe you had a passion for something academically, but to get that passion, like what were the teachers like to kind of fuel where you wanted to go with your education?
Yeah. I was definitely a tricky egg in education wise. I like had a kind of a background of being homeschooled before going into public school, and so I think my realm of kind of looking at how you learn in a classroom was always different. But I mean, there were some great teachers that really just kind of like picked me up from there and was like, okay, this is, this is where we're going. And I think Chelmsford High is really cool in the aspect. I didn't know this before going to Chelmsford High, but like afterwards talking to people, like there was a lot of opportunities for really cool classes to take, like anatomy, where you're like dissecting a cat, which is just wild, or psychology and sociology. Like those were all like really cool courses that I think kind of sparked some of my interest into, what I wanted to do in the future, if I knew it or not, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's what it is, right? Chelmsford has always kind of had that reputation of, having the background. And, I've had alumni say to me, I was always interested in drawing, but it was my math teacher that figured out that really I wanted to be an artist. Was there anything like that? You do have some interest as we get towards it, towards, veterinarian and animals and stuff like that, but yet you've talked about your athletics, and that's kind of in your background too. But was there any course that kind of pushed you in those things?
Yeah. Like I guess like I said, like the anatomy class, we called her Mrs. A, was our teacher there, and she was just like so wildly like just bubbly and welcoming to everybody that came in and like made the learning. It was so much information that you were learning, but it was just really interesting and she made it just very like tangible. I'm a very like have to physically be doing something type of person, hence why sports are so, I guess, such a draw to me. So like that definitely sticks out. I mean, I think sports in general has kind of been a theme throughout my life as well, kind of an outlet to go to for stress relief, but also for really like community and enjoyment. Um, and then another class that kind of sticks out is I took a sociology class with I believe it was Mr. Berlin was my sociology teacher and we did some really cool field trips. And it was mostly a senior class and I was a junior, so I ended up able to like kind of double up on some of the field trips that we did that like I was able to go round two with some of the juniors because it was just so intriguing. And so like I think that kind of maybe inspired me more to kind of go after outside the box things that I was interested in.
Yeah. So Chelmsford High led you to getting your associate's degree, though, in business. And
Hmm.
so what was the thought process there is because I think everybody should have a business degree, but that's just me personally, for the background of it. But were there goals coming out of Chelmsford and we'll get into all your running and those kind of things of being really involved in events?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of very like um I mean, I was on like helping kind of with student council planning like our dances and that type of thing. And I always really liked planning birthday parties or like kind of gathering socially. But I never really got into like the major event thing until I kind of stumbled into it. Like a friend of mine just said, "Hey, you might be really good at this. You're good at organizing people, you're good at organizing things. You should check out events and see kind of what goes with it." So yeah, I got a business degree just because I think it's the most one of the more practical degrees to get if you really don't know kind of what you're doing or where you're going. And then it kind of just morphed from listening to people's suggestions and just kind of trying a little bit of everything, kind of like I did in high school as well. Like,
Yeah.
it just kind of helps you blossom into to finding what really like works for you.
So I'm talking to you right now, though, in Arizona, and so what made you venture out? Like, was it anything in your background, or is it just kind of a path that you felt like you had to follow?
Yeah, I've always been quite a big adventurer. Like I said, I grew up in Chelmsford until I was about 6. My whole family then moved to California for 4 years, and then we all moved to Hawaii for 4 years, and then we moved back to Chelmsford. So I think like a stemming part of it is my family's always been kind of open-ended to being adventurous. And then stemming from there, like my dad did a lot of backpacking when he was younger and talked about it quite a bit. And so I've always been quite a bit of a kind of let's go explore the world and see what we find and see like what we enjoy and can we kind of build something off of that. And so yeah, I ended up in Arizona mostly for like kind of a sports push, I guess. There's some really great training out here, but it was just kind of the idea of a new adventure as well is just very exciting to me.
So speaking of all your adventures, do you go on these trips because you have an event that you're going to either participate or run in, or some of your travels, right? You've seen about 28 countries. Like, are those, or is that just I want to see this part of the world?
It's a little bit of
Yeah.
both. Like as a broke college student, it was kind of hard to plan vacations. So a big chunk of it would be like, well, I'm going to compete in this race. I'm going to volunteer so I can get into the race for free because I couldn't afford the race, and then I'm going to camp outside the race and do it. And so that kind of turned into a travel thing, and I saw a lot of the US kind of doing that. And then I've always really enjoyed learning about different people's cultures. In high school, we hosted a Spanish exchange student for a summer, and that kind of maybe sparked my interest in Europe and Spain. And I ended up like au pairing in Spain for a couple months, kind of in between college. And so I think like that aspect is really just pulled through. Like I just love the aspect of traveling and learning about what other people like to do. And then the exploration of it and being able to like run up mountains and do all these sports things in new destinations. It's a very thrilling thing for me, I guess.
So has there been a destination that that you went to that you were just completely surprised by the way it was described, but then when you got there, that it was so different?
I would say the most extreme of a destination that like from what I'm used to that we went to was Egypt. It was like no place I've ever been before, and I hope to go back there or experience another thing that's like kind of that extreme. But it's just so busy and such a different lifestyle and way of living. It was just it was very overwhelming for a couple days, and then you kind of got used to kind of the culture and everything and getting into it. But yeah, I'd say Egypt was probably the wildest that I've done so far.
Now, did you do an event there, or was that just purely travel?
It was purely travel. It was a portion of a 4-month backpacking trip around Europe, and I competed in a couple races throughout Europe, but really wanted to kind of dip into a couple other places. And Egypt was on the list, and it was cheap enough to fly there from Europe. So I just kind of popped in real quick for a week and a half, and then came back to Europe and did a couple other races. So it was kind of a convenience factor, but I had it on my top of my list of places I really wanted to go see. So.
So it sounds like with the running, obviously, what you're doing in your athleticism, you know, they say that it's great when you participate in sports in college, right? It keeps you focused, staying where what you want to do, make sure you get your studies going and those kind of things. And it sounds like though you're using sports because you love it and you love competing to kind of find your path. Am I describing that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've found that the sporting community is something that's really helped me find my path. The drive to be able to do hard things in sports has given me kind of enough of grit to get through some of the tricky parts of life. But then you can kind of fall back onto this really cool sporting community where everybody's really motivated, everybody has really big goals, and they want to see you achieve goals, and they want to, you know, suggest things that would make you excited. And it really just is kind of one of those everybody kind of rises together type of community that is really, I guess, helped me find my path in life thus far.
So you've done 5, right, Boston marathons? Is that?
I've done one Boston
Oh, well,
Marathon.
only one. Okay.
Yeah, one Boston Marathon last year is my first, and 2 marathons in general.
Okay.
So I hope to be back in Boston, but the next couple years I've had to kind of figure out what I'm focusing on, and marathons aren't easy on the body, so I have to
I was going to
have to
say,
strategically go after that.
right, but you say that, but didn't you do some 100-mile venture or something of that sort? Was that the hardest
Yeah.
thing you've ever done? Can you?
Um, well, no. So I did a 100-mile bike ride. It was a El Tour de Tucson. And it was definitely, I think, one of the most races that I've been least prepared for, I'd
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
I didn't get long enough kind of training rides in, so going into it, I wasn't sure if I was going to finish, which was kind of a stressful thing, but I ended up doing awesome in it. Like just surprised myself. Um, but I want to say probably the 2 marathons Boston was great, just because of the crowds and everything. But my first marathon was probably one of the most brutal physical activities that I've ever done because um, just my hips gave out at like mile 14, and then I was in pretty excruciating pain for the rest of the
So
rest of the race. So
which
it's
marathon
kind
was that?
it was Bay State in Lowell.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great race. It was just my muscles weren't strong enough to kind of to hold myself together, and it was my first marathon, so I didn't know it at the time. So I was doing great and I was hitting my times and I felt great, and then all of a sudden, like, there was just some pain in my hip, and it was just like I was so determined to finish it because I told everybody I was doing the race, and like I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish it, unless something pops, I'm gonna get to this finish
Yeah.
line. Which was a bit extreme, and it was definitely like one of the most mentally grueling races I've done thus far. I'm hoping to do some trickier ones, some ultra marathons in the near future, but so far my first marathon was the most brutal.
So with working and doing like the events and those things, going to school, right? You're still going to school. What is a training day like for you?
Yeah, so it really varies. Right now I'm taking a little bit of a break from full-time working, and just kind of a mental hiatus, I guess I'll say. And so training right now is most of what I do throughout the day. Probably about like 20 hours a week, somewhere in there. Depending on like what the capacity is, I could build up to 30. So it's a lot of scheduling out your training, getting really solid chunks of training in, and then planning your recovery, and then figuring out where you live, the adulting life in between all of that. So it's a very much a balance of the wits, we'll say.
Yeah. So what is, do you have a goal based on other things that you've done? Is there a goal for what you want to achieve?
Yeah. So right now I'm pretty deep into the triathlon world. And I started that about 2 years ago, and that I mean, my original goal was just to finish the race. And then I ended up winning my age group, and I thought, oh, like that's kind of intriguing. This is a small local race. Like maybe I should have bigger goals here. And I've started building and building, and just recently won actually got second place for like overall, um for a local race down in Tucson, which the competition is a lot steeper than I'm used to in the Massachusetts realm. And so I think just building up the distance of races is something that is really exciting to me currently. I guess a lot of my goals are based off of something that really drives me to go out and train every day. So something that like is really challenging, something that's exciting. So the idea of I'm building into half Ironman. Next year, I hope to do an Ironman, but not just do it, but like perform really well in it is something that really gives me the satisfaction of it. So,
That could bring you back
um,
to Hawaii, right?
yeah, that's the idea.
Okay.
So in 2027, I think is the goal for the Ironman Kona.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so it's kind of this intriguing idea of, how far can you go until you fail, I guess, or until you can't go any further. So Ironman was kind of triathlon was born in that sense of like, well, who is the best swimmer, biker, runner, and like the Ironman distance is pretty unthinkable for the average person. So like how can you do that Ironman distance, and can you do well in it? And like how can you push your body to go to that extreme?
So
So that's kind of the messed up stuff that I enjoy.
speaking of that, so which is the hardest event to train for you?
Um, oof. With triathlon right now, I want to say Um, biking is pretty tricky for me right now. It's just such a very I have so much respect for pro cyclists. Like the dynamic is like no sport I've ever experienced. I mean, I've played so many different sports, and it's just like the intensity of the sport itself, the dynamics of riding in a group with people, all the aspects of your bike, and how to like fit it to be in a certain way that you can function optimally on it. Um, there's just like for me at least, I didn't grow up biking hardcore. I would ride around the block and call it a day. So now like riding is mentally I'm just constantly like, I'm not having fun, I'm not having fun. And then very occasionally, if there's like a downhill portion, I'm like, oh, this is great. But the rest of it is pretty brutal. So it's kind of one of those things where it's a really good challenge, and it's one of those mental things of like, not everything in life is this enjoyable thing. And so kind of trying to lean into it and see where it takes me, I guess, is a part that I'm enjoying with it. But it's definitely a challenge.
Which to the average person would sound scary that, you get off the bike and you're like, thank God that's over, but now I got to run. Now the average
Yeah.
person would be like, I really want to get back on that bike.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I'm definitely I'm happy when I get off the bike and I can start running.
Yeah.
It's almost a relief to me.
So, in that whole vein, though, is there another avenue after the triathlon that's something that sticks in your mind, or someplace that's going to take you to do an Ironman? I brought up Hawaii, though, and merge your travels again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping that I mean, I really like finding excuses to travel places. And so races are one of those things that like it gives you a date, gives you a location, it gives you a group of people that you can meet and interact with. So there is this TV show that came out that I was I think it was 2 years ago during the pandemic. It came out and I can't remember the name of it, but it was filming an adventure race that happened down in, I believe in Brazil. And I like rewatched this multiple times because it was just such a intriguing, exciting aspect of like a world that I'd never really experienced, which like adventure racing is kind of where you like get coordinates and there's different disciplines. You could be rafting, you could be mountain biking, you could be running, you can be trekking, you can be rock climbing. And you have to like, basically get to these different points and work as a team to achieve that. And so they have some really cool adventure races around the world that I've been kind of eyeing, kind of, flirting with a little bit and we'll see. That's something that I've had my eye on for quite some time. So hoping to eventually build into that. And then in a work standpoint, I have some big dreams of creating a kind of destination training camp of sorts in somewhere an international destination. So kind of meshing the extremes of I love travel, I love the athletics, and I kind of want to bring it into something where other people can come enjoy the all the aspects that I enjoy because I know everybody's always like, how do you do this? How do you find the motivation for XYZ and so kind of bringing it to other people would be really a really cool aspect.
Now, you did say that you were watching some TV show, but tell us about the shows that you were on at one point, and how did that come
Oh
to be?
yeah. I've been on a number of movies in the past, let's just say like 6 to 8 years. And it started with somebody just suggesting that I make this free profile on this casting agency local to Boston. And a lot of people don't know, but like Boston is a really big TV or movie hub. Like there's just a lot of movies that come in and film. It's a very iconic setting, obviously. And so I made this free profile, and it was kind of an in between when I was kind of finishing up my associates and had a lot of free time and wasn't sure kind of what to do next in life in general. And so I started just saying yes to all these casting calls and showing up to set, with some pretty big names. And ended up just like being in the right spot at the right time and got some great featured roles and kind of networked within that community, did some stand-in work. So you can see my face in quite a number of kind of fun locally filmed, and then also there's just like I
Name a
guess
few of
nationally
your
filmed.
favorites.
Let's see. Some of the best ones I was in Spencer Confidential, which was Mark Wahlberg movie that came out a couple years ago. And I got a lot of friends texting me like photos of me sitting next to Mark Wahlberg being like, oh my God, I didn't know you were in this, and everybody freaking out, and so that's it's just a fun aspect of kind of, just another thing to enjoy in life and kind of explore, and a fun fact about me, I guess. I was also in Patriots Day, which is about the Boston Marathon bombing, which was just a really, really cool, like special thing to be a part of, to kind of look back on that day, and everybody in Chelmsford kind of probably knows somebody and has that connection to, that awful day, and then just kind of creating this really cool artsy, aspect, telling the story of it. So that was really special to be a part of. Um, and I guess my first film that I like really got into was I Feel Pretty, which was, from Amy Schumer, um, a really funny one of hers. So I'm also kind of, you can see me speckled in there as well, but all fun stuff for the most part.
You're not going back to that world?
Well, so I live in Arizona right now, and Tucson has, this old Western set that they keep building on, and they'll have old Western movies come and get filmed here. And I've been kind of asking around, trying to figure out how they cast for that, because I've kind of decided that I really want to be in like an old Western film, like all get up and, this stomping around in the background. Like I think that would be really fun. But no, I haven't pursued it much. It's more of just a fun hobby that I do when I have the time.
Yeah, coming away from your training. So,
Yeah.
but in going back to the last thing, like, what was the hardest race or thing that you've had to do? Like, or was it in the TV and just throwing yourself into something? Like, because everything you do, it sounds like you throw your whole heart and your whole everything into it. What was the one where you were like, oh my God, I can do this because I can do anything?
Well, that's a great question. Um, no, I mean, let's see. I'm trying to like cycle through all of my traumatizing moments in life to get to the best one, but I guess not one really sticks out, but I'll say like, um working, when I was just coming out of college, as everybody, I guess for the most part does, like nobody has money. They all just spent a fortune on their degree. And so I was trying to figure out ways to be an athlete and to do races and compete, and also to be able to afford and make money. And so for about a year or two, I kind of stumbled into the event business and industry. And so I was working events, but I would also race the events occasionally as well. And so I would like race the event with the like elite field so that I could finish early enough so that I could be at the race site functioning and like helping everybody else and making sure everything ran smoothly and doing my job. So it was a really cool aspect of having that opportunity, and my boss allowing me to do it because they trusted that I would get back. I was fast enough to get back in time and be able to function the rest of the day and do it because they needed me for it. But it was just like it was really grueling, and I didn't have the money to like spend on hotels to stay in. So I'd stay in friends' cabins that didn't have electricity or running water, and I'd camp out like at the event site, and I'd be sleeping either on the ground or maybe an air mattress if I was lucky, and just kind of traveling, road tripping in my Toyota Corolla. So it was a grueling, I'd say, like year and a half of doing that, and the amount of stress on your body of like waking up at 4 a.m., racing for 2 hours, and then working until 10 p.m. and then waking up and maybe just doing it again the next day. So I think like that aspect of it, and I think it gave me a good groundwork to kind of build off of that and being like, okay, well, I have the grit to get things done. Now, like, now that I have, a little more stability and money, like, can I use that grit to do cooler things and to kind of build off of it and create something that I really enjoy that's purposeful, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, I wish you all the best. I thank you for coming on, taking time out of your training and everything that you do to be on Where Are They Now. I wish you all the best, and keep trucking, and I hope biking comes easier someday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure being on here.
Thank you. To everybody, thank you for joining us here at Where Are They Now, and we'll see you back here soon.